Hello, my name is Michaela St. Luce. I am an MSW student at Texas State University, currently enrolled in the Foundation for Social Work Practice 2. Today I will be talking to you about the prevalence of child sexual abuse and the plan I have to help reduce those effects in the community I serve. Child sexual abuse can be defined as an interaction between an adult or older child where a younger child may be abused or used for sexual stimulation of a perpetrator or an observer. A lot of families, children, and communities are affected by child sexual abuse every year, and it is still an issue that is not prevalent, or I wouldn't say prevalent, but it is an issue that not many people are aware of how common it is around the nation. Um, Oftentimes, people don't believe that children or adults could perpetrate on other children in their community, or they think that it happens to a certain set of communities where it does not. About 1 in 10 children will be sexually assaulted before the age of 18, and of those children, 1 in 7 will be girls, and 1 in 25 will be boys. Also, of those children, 20% of those will be abused before the age of 8. Most of these abuse victims will not disclose. About 60% of victims never tell about their abuse. I believe that these statistics are crucial to understand because it helps put into perspective how the magnitude of this problem and how common it is in communities all over the nation and not just in certain communities as people may have believed before. There are several misconceptions with child sexual abuse, with the most common one being the stranger danger myth. Oftentimes, parents teach their children to be wary of strangers for fear that they might be abused by a stranger or kidnapped or abducted by a stranger. In fact, it is more likely for a child to be victimized by someone that they know. 90% of victims know their abusers, and of those abusers, 60% are those that the family knows and trusts. Um, Abusers or perpetrators can be someone that we see every day in our lives that we might not understand, or not might think would be a perpetrator, such as a coach, a neighbor, a teacher, a family friend, or even a family member. It is important to understand that a perpetrator of child abuse can be someone that we know, and it could be anyone. Another misconception is that adolescent offenders are mentally ill. Adolescent offenders can offend for several reasons, one being curiosity. They may have seen something on TV or were exposed to like pornographic material, which pinch them to go and act out onto another child. Another reason could be that they were abused themselves and they are acting out what was done to them onto another child. With proper treatment, though, these adolescent offenders can go on to live and have a normal development and go on to live normal lives as adults. Another misconception is that most of the allegations that children make are made up. People believe that children make up these allegations for attention, or they were bored, or they don't understand the seriousness of the problem. Only about 4 to 8% of allegations are fabricated, and most times they are fabricated by an adult that is associated with the case. Another misconception is that adult rape is victimized at higher rates than child sexual abuse. It is thought to believe that adult women who experience rape, that situation happens more time than a child sexual abuse situation. In fact, children get victimized at way higher rates than adults do. There are other misconceptions that people have about child sexual abuse, such as that child sexual abuse will influence a child's sexuality, or that abuse will turn a child into an abuser. And also that females are not really abusers, but all these are misconceptions and myths. In fact, females do end up being abusers at times, and that, like I said earlier, if a child gets proper treatment, they can grow up to live a normal development and not turn into an abuser. One other big misconception is that abuse only involves touching, and especially of the private part or genital areas. But abuse can also include saying things to children that are not appropriate, or having children watch, or you do things or acts, sexual acts that are not appropriate for them to watch. There are warning signs that children can give off to indicate that they may have been a victim of sexual abuse. Physical signs are not as common, but there are some signs that can help determine that, when being redness or rashes on the genital area, or any type of bruise around the genital area, as well as urinary tract infections. Emotional signs will be more common in these cases, and a lot of times children will display behavior that is distant or kind of reflects depression, and they're not wanting to come out their room, and they're acting out in different ways. Also, acting out in ways of delinquency, or having rebellious acts, or being angry, excuse me, are another behavioral changes or signs that a child may have been sexually abused. It is important that we look for signs in adults as well. Oftentimes we don't pay attention to the adults that interact with our children on a day-to-day basis, but it is important to see those signs in adults, such as, like, if an adult is always trying to pull a child to the side or talk to a child in private, that is a red flag that might indicate that something is going on there. So for my plan, I would like to create an informational brochure that will teach on the community about the prevalence of child sexual abuse that's going on within the nation and within our community, as well as teaching kids how to learn about their body parts, learn about body safety, learn about sexual development and puberty, and just teaching them about more about sexual abuse so that they understand the problem as well. The ultimate goal for my plan is to raise awareness into the community about child sexual abuse. I believe that first, to make a change and to stand up against something, one has to be aware of the problem. So in my community, I would like to just spread awareness more on the issue, and spread what can be done, and what can adults do or parents do with their children to help combat child sexual abuse. I also want to encourage sex talks with children, which goes beyond just talking about sex and what sex is and anything like that, but just encouraging kids to talk about their body in terms of just so they understand how their body works and things like that. So they would talk about what their private parts are, call them by the proper terminology, and also teach children what is okay and not okay to be done with their body. It will help them understand what sexual abuse will look like, kind of, and kind of help combat it through that way. Also, explain to children, especially younger children, what healthy touch is, and explaining, like, when you go to the doctor and the doctor does an exam, they may have to touch your private parts, and that's okay if it's for in within the context or scope of the exam. So I have created some objectives to help me obtain the goals that I would like to achieve for my project. First, obviously, research. Got to do research to make sure that you understand the problem fully, and that the information that I put into my brochure is accurate and is easy for children and adults to understand. Also, I would like to develop a brochure that is visually engaging and that displays the information in a way that is receptive not only to adults but to children as well. I also, by using visually engaging layout, kind of like a whimsical layout, it will kind of go away from the stigma that talking to children about sex is scary and it's something that's inappropriate, but encourage it more and try to normalize it so that we can encourage these talks into the neighborhood. After that is just to distribute the brochures within the community itself. By early May 2018, I would like for the residents of Newton County, Georgia, and Walton County, Georgia, to have a better understanding of what child sexual abuse is and what it looks like, so they can better identify it within the community as well. I feel like this will help combat child sexual abuse within our community and open up to more disclosures. So the agency that I intern at is a Child's Voice Child Advocacy Center, and they will be helping me implement my project into the community. And so the center is a child-friendly location that helps coordinate care and investigation of child abuse cases in the Alcovy Judicial Circuit of Georgia. And so the services that we provide are forensic interviews, which are basically interviews that help obtain evidence for investigations of child abuse. And within these interviews, it is very child friendly, and the interviewers are specially trained to talk to children. And the interview will go more like a conversation so that the child is more comfortable talking, and that they don't feel pressured to really say any information they don't want to. But our interviewers are specially trained to get the information that's needed from children. Depending on what they disclose in their interview, we will do a forensic medical examination. And excuse me, this is just a head to toe examination, again, non invasive, and it is for the purpose of looking for any type of signs of infections or things like that, and if there are, to collect that evidence for the investigations as well. Family advocacy and support is another service we provide, and basically with family advocacy, we provide the caregivers and the families with resources and support during this traumatic event for them. So one thing that we do and we believe helps children a lot is counseling, and we make counseling referrals. We have a counseling resource list that caregivers can look at, and then excuse me, they can find whichever center is best for them and their child. And so we will help them out with that by making a referral to the agency. Another big thing we do is offer the crime victims compensation application, which basically helps with any financial burdens that have been a result of the crime that was committed. After the children and family leave the centers, we also stay in touch with them and follow up with them to see how everything is going out after their visit to the center. Ask about how counseling is going and answer any questions they might have, and we always open up for them to call back and we can help them in any way. There are certain activities that I need to have done by certain times for my project, or I would like to have done by. And so by January 2018, I would like to have a rough draft of my brochure completed. That way I can kind of get feedback from my staff, and then also that I can give a trial run of it into the community before I just mass distribute it in the community. A draft will be given to a focus group in February, the beginning of February. My agency holds trainings, darkness to light trainings that teach about child sexual abuse for organizations in the community. So they will be having one in the beginning of February, and I will use this opportunity to first distribute my brochure. That way I can get feedback from this organization and their idea of how the community will be receptive to it. After that, I will do revisions to my brochure, and I will have this done by the beginning of March 18th, so that all of March I can begin distributing my brochure throughout the community through the many community outreach events that my agency is a part of. The brochures will be distributed, and then by May 2nd, I will do an evaluation of my project. Here's my PERT chart that really breaks down more in depth how or what I want done by what date, and what needs to be and how long it will take. And so you see I got research that I have started to do and will get finished, and really obviously I want to have all of the brochure done by January so that I can anticipate any mishaps that might happen. So for my project, I'm going to consider it successful if my project was able to educate the community on the prevalence of child sexual abuse, and if it was able to get parents engaging in conversations about sexual abuse with their children. I know this is hard to kind of measure when evaluating a project, so I will make a survey that will be administered simultaneously as I distribute the brochures. And with this survey, it will help measure communities' feedback, basically, and their reaction to the brochure, how useful resources and information in the brochure was, and basically just overall, was the brochure able to help them understand what child sexual abuse is and everything like that. So it will kind of help me measure the things that I will find my project successful by, but also will have like concrete way of measuring my project and evaluating my project. So I'd like to close off my presentation with a question that I asked myself while I was at my agency trying to come up with an idea for my project. And the question is, are there efforts that can be made to combat child sexual abuse in the community? And what would those efforts look like? So first, my main goal is really I just wanted to get the information out there about child sexual abuse, because from what I was seeing at my center, a lot of parents weren't aware that this could ever happen to their kid, or that wasn't aware that it could happen to someone that they know, and that it was someone that they know that could do this to their child. And so I wanted to get this information out into the community so that people understand that this is an issue that is very prevalent to them, and it happens to any child, and it can happen to any child across the nation. So getting the information out there and raising awareness, and getting people involved so that they understand what this looks like and how they can help fight this in the community. It's something that's very dear to my heart, and I hope to continue to work on as I go into my career. But thank you guys for listening to me, and thank you for considering my project. Um, you guys have been a real big help. Thank you.